Hello internet, and today's video is going to be another book opinion, those videos in which I tell you my opinion on my book. And today's book is going to be Akata Witch by Nnedi Okorafor. This also goes by another name in different countries, but in the American version it is called Akata Witch. I'll try to put like a cover of what the other title and the other version is called, just so like you know that they're the same books, they're the same series, right? So this is by Nnedi Okorafor, of course. This is her middle grade YA series that she did. This follows a girl named Sunny, and she is a Nigerian American or American Nigerian, depending how you want to say it. She is also an albino girl, and she has albinism, which really puts her in a tight spot, especially when there's a lot of superstitions around albinoism, and she kind of has to deal with that. She's currently going to school in Nigeria, and she's attending school, and she ends up making a couple friends, and through these friends she ends up learning that there is a world of magic people that are referred to as leopard people, and she is one of them. And she's basically the muggle, right? Where they in their world call them free agents, people who don't have any original ties to the leopard people and didn't grow up in the leopard society. And now Sunny is here in the leopard society learning how to be a leopard person alongside of her two new friends who have kind of drawn her into this. Now, being a leopard person seems like it's like really interesting. I love the dynamic that is given for like what kind of lessons they learn and what they do, because a lot of it is sort of self-learning. Like, you have a mentor, but the mentor kind of pushes you in the right direction, and you're supposed to use your own brain and your own thoughts and ideas to kind of guide your way. So the mentor isn't just there to guide you along in your learning, but a lot of like what you know is up to you. Also, there's this really cool thing about being a leopard person where the money that is exchanged in leopard society is something that can only be gained when you learn more. So the more you learn, the more money you have, because as soon as you learn something new or you have like a new epiphany about something, like these little, what are they called, chittening, they fall out of the sky. They're like these little bars, and depending on like how important the knowledge was you learned, there's different values. So like there's silver and gold and like different metals and stuff that can fall out of the sky depending on what you learn. So like Sunny is getting into the society that really cares about knowledge and about learning, but specifically about you learning for yourself. So there's a lot of points in this where yes, it would have been easier if the adults just told them what was happening, but because of how this society works, you know that it's going to be up to Sunny and her friends figuring out for themselves what is happening. I really like the mentorship program. I really like the way that these classes are. It was a new way to see learning and to see how knowledge is gained, really depending on you as the student to want to go out there and seek knowledge, because they're not going to force you to do anything. It's going to be up to you whether or not you want to learn. I also like how it talked about Sunny and her albinism and how she had to deal with that a lot of times. It didn't make like a huge deal about it, but it was something that was nice to see and nice to note in the book, and that it was something that she mentioned off and on when it came to family issues, specifically like with her dad, when it came to like health problems that she might or might not have, depending. There's also something else going on throughout this book. There is a serial killer running around, so that's going to be the big bad for the book. So while Sunny and her friends are learning more, and Sunny is getting used to this idea of being a leopard person and having like the secret life, she also has to deal with the fact that there is somebody on the streets who has been killing and kidnapping kids, and that she could potentially be the next one taken, or one of her friends could be. And she ends up finding out that this person was also a leopard person, and they're big both in leopard society and in like the lambs. That's what the muggles are called. They're called lambs in this book. So what the lambs society, because this person has been taking lamb children and sacrificing them and stuff like that. So like we slowly are learning more about leopard society, but we're also having Sunny deal with like this imminent danger and the deeper, darker things about it. Another thing that was really fascinating to learn about is that there was a lot of Western African mythos and creatures displayed here. So masquerades were a big thing. What is it? Watamami? I think that's it. This water woman, different water beasts, like different beings and creatures that you would see in West African folklore made a huge appearance here. So that was really fun to see, because that's not something that I've ever really seen a lot of in books, of course. So that was like something that was really fun to see, and like it is something I've grown more familiar with, because Nnedi Okorafor does that in all of her books in some sort of light, but it was like nice to see them here in a literal sense. Like in this book, they weren't something that were figurative like they might have been in the Binti series, or something that like comes out of the darkness like in Lagoon. Here they're just like a natural part of society, and people already are very aware that these are things. Well, at least leopard people. So I guess this was really good. I don't think, like, if you're expecting any normal, like, I don't want to say normal. If you're expecting like Hogwarts or Harry Potter because you heard it was a girl and her friends learning magic, then I'm sorry to tell you it's not going to be that, because I don't know who said that to me or who mentioned that to me. And I read this and I was like, it is nothing like that. And I'm not saying that as an insult. I'm saying that as like, you guys got to stop comparing things when these things aren't comparable. Just because a book has people who have magic and children who are learning magic doesn't mean that they're all Harry Potter. Come on. So I like the dynamic of schooling in Akata Witch, because like I said, knowledge is a really important thing to the leopard people, so that the way that they teach people is really fun and interesting. I also liked how the personalities were for each friend. I liked how distinctive that they were. For each friend, I like how like Sunny had her own personality, Nim had her own personality. Like everybody in this book had their own personality, their own background, their own experiences. And despite Sunny being the main character, you never felt like the other characters, her other friends, got left by the wayside. You still got a really good feel for them as well. I also liked how Sunny, even though she's like the chosen one of this book, she's not really. And so when you see her being the new kid and trying to prove herself, she still has this air of being the new kid. Because sometimes in these books, it's like they're too OP from the beginning, and like you're new, but apparently you have just awesome, amazing powers, so it doesn't matter that you're new. It doesn't happen like that here with Sunny's case. You know, as a reader, that Sunny has a lot of potential and is going to be very powerful, but she is just as rivaled with her friends and like how powerful they are and how inventive and creative they can be with their own juju and their own powers and everything like that. So it ends up making a very dynamic group where you never feel like one is way far above the others, because like they all have their flaws that really keep them down and things like that. And one of the biggest things holding back Sunny is that she's not very familiar with this society yet, and she's slowly learning more and more about it. So like that is something that's slowly drawing her back. And then she has like a few like personality issues that sometimes can get in her way, like with self-doubt, self-esteem. Sometimes she gets like too impatient really quickly. So like there's a lot of things going on that all the characters really feel fleshed out, despite it being a Sunny story. Despite it being a story about Sunny, you also get a feel for these other characters, which I also really liked. So that was a plus for me. Like I said, this book is really good. I think when it came to the villain, there was a little disconnect for me there. Not because the villain was a bad villain, simply because the progression to the villain just came out of nowhere. I guess you could say, like, the villain was always there from the very beginning, even before Sunny became aware she was a leopard person, and you knew that was something that was eventually going to happen. But it sort of just felt like, oh, Sunny and her friends are learning and like getting into trouble, and all of a sudden they're being sent on this dangerous mission to go stop them because they're the only ones who can. So that was the one issue that I had with this book, was just that progression with the story. It felt like a little too like odd. Like there was a little too much disconnect there with Sunny and her group just all of a sudden being sent out to go fight the villain. Like I was just like, okay, that happened a little out of nowhere. But other than that, it's a pretty solid story. I really like the themes, the messages. I really like seeing all of this West African culture blended in, and really given an outlet and a voice and something. Like, I guess I really like seeing this new idea of a magic system, because I think so often magic gets trapped into this thing where it's like wizards, witches, and you need one little wand, and like it only can be done this certain way. And I feel like magic is a lot more diverse because it's freaking magic. So I like seeing a different type of magic being used here. It has similarities to what Western culture would have as magic, but it definitely has distinctive West African influences when it comes to their version of magic, which I really appreciated and I really liked, because it gave me something more and to think about, right? Something like, oh man, that is really cool, or oh, that is a cool way to think about this, or oh wow, like man, like that's a cool way to use magic. And that was really fascinating for me. So that is one reason why I really like this book. So if witches and magical people and magical societies are your thing, I would say give this a shot, because this will open like a new door to a new way to look at magic that will just amaze you, and you'll be like, wow, that is really good. There are some like pacing issues, but overall I just think that the characters, that the story, that the plot will end up forgiving those few pacing issues that do occur in the course of this book. So if you like what you're seeing here and you want to continue to see more, click all those bunnies down below, and goodbye, internet.